Today's topic, woo, I'm telling you, nature's architects. How will fungi shape our future? Is our topic today. And fungi, as far as I have learned, there are massive kingdoms of organisms that live mostly out of sight, yet support and sustain nearly all living systems. The more we know about them, the less makes sense without them, really. And um, I have to say, we want to find out today, while the music is actually curated by the guests slowly fading out, we want to know today, how do these largest organisms on Earth actually shape our future? How can we future with them rather than without them? And is there maybe a fungi way of foresight? We'll find out today. And I brought you a special treat to begin with. This is a lion's mane. Lion's mane fungi filmed over the course of 3 weeks as part of the documentary Planet Fungi, a documentary dedicated to these fascinating, largest of all organisms on Earth. And every time I look at this, I'm part fascinated and part scared. I don't know what's going on here, but it is beautiful. It is fascinating. I just learned that lion's mane actually makes for a really good tea. So whatever you have in front of you, have some water there, have some midnight milk if you're joining from Singapore, some good morning coffee over there in Calgary and in LA. Hydrate, relax with us, enjoy, and ask your questions. And before we get started into the conversation, I would love to know what kind of fungi shows up at the Dubai Future Forum this year and why nature plays such an important part at a gathering of foresight practitioners from all over the world, a gathering of humans. And here is, live from Dubai, the curator of Dubai Future Forum, back on Horizons, Iman Al-Qadi. Such an honor to host you on the show again. Welcome.
Thank you, Felix. Thank you very much. I really can't take you very seriously with this lion's mane sort of just around your head. Something to think about for when we think about the visuals for the fungi panel at the forum.
I chose it specifically to look a little bit more serious. So thank you for not buying that at all. But why is fungi a part of foresight, in your opinion? Why did you make it a topic at Dubai Future Forum?
I mean, so mushrooms, obviously part of nature and one of the least known ecosystems. And when we were thinking about the forum and we were thinking about futuring nature, when we talk about that relationship we have with nature, we really do have to investigate the ties with all the different worlds, flora, fauna, and fungi. So, we need to learn about different worlds and how to live all together on this planet. And that's part of foresight as much as it is part of our futures thinking and our philosophy for the future.
Okay, I'll change my background now. Even though Neil just said he's actually drinking lion's mane elixir over here. Thank you, Neil. And Iman, now that you made this a huge part of the forum this year, and you and your team have been curating basically nature into a human gathering. By the way, yesterday was World Fungus Day. I just learned about this. And the people who said World Fungus Day, maybe they're still a little bit hungover, but they say this is totally underrated. This is still totally under the radar, this whole topic. So when you think about the session today and the question that we raised, how will fungi shape our future? What do you think might be the answer?
Ooh, tough one. That's probably why I'm not the expert on the topic. I'm going to leave it in the very safe hands of Dima and Claudia to explore a little bit more. I will say Dima and Claudia are actually part of the speaking group of people that are coming to the forum this year. So I'm sure they have a lot more to say about this than I do. But I think from our side, we were just fascinated about the power of fungi, right? So you're right to say that it's so underrated, it's so underexplored. And so it's about really trying to understand what it is that we can actually gain for the future of humanity from something so simple or appearing simple as mushrooms and fungi, and also just to understand the economy of it and also the way that it can rebalance nature. There's just so much to learn from it. I mean, I recall a conversation I had with someone that was out of Japan that basically was telling me how the whole metro system was built because they had kind of released these fungi into the ground, and it just developed into this network that then kind of did the mapping for the metro system. I mean, it's just incredible to think of how much you can learn. And this is just fungi. So you can imagine how much more you can learn from nature if we just let nature do its thing, how much better we would be on our planet and in the future for humanity.
Wow. Tokyo subway system. I think we'll talk about that. Thank you, Aman, and thank you for being here. I know it's evening over there in Dubai, and many people from your region have joined and spending their evening with us here. Thank you. We're super excited for the forum and to our speakers who will be there in person. And I would like to say hi to them right now. First up, a Copenhagen-based architect who's currently pursuing a PhD at the chair of Biohybrid architecture at the Royal Danish Academy. I'm still learning how to say this in Danish. I think it's something like Det Kongelige Academy. She works there at the Fungi project funded by the European Union. And I'm so happy to have her on the show today. Claudia Colmo, bienvenuti. It's great to have you, Claudia. Oh, there's a lot going on in the chat, Claudia. Anything that speaks to you specifically that you just read in the chat?
Well, I was kind of lost, but I saw someone I saw someone saying about foraging, which I did last weekend. It was amazing. And he said something about not identified. Amazing.
Yes, and it was Alex saying foraging. Actually, my brother also, he sent me a picture last weekend from foraging over there in Germany. And Alex shares here, learning that fungi actually are closer to the animal kingdom than the plant kingdom thoroughly freaked me out. I haven't fully processed that yet. It's true though, right?
It is true. Actually, it's because of the digestion, you know? So basically, the way they digest is closer to us because they are heterotrophs. So basically, they need external nutrients to live. So if you see plants, they basically do by photosynthesis, they produce their own nutrients. So that's why what we have in common. But what it's different is that we have to digest, but they actually absorbs the nutrients. So this is, very interesting.
Well, Alex just wrote, still processing, right? Still digesting this information. So here we go. As the humans that we are, we're slow. And your co-guest today, Claudia, I'm so excited to have her on the show, is the founder of the Biospheric City Lab at Mycosphere, UAE-based consultancy providing sustainable development strategies and solutions for cities and the built environment. So you already hear it maybe out there. Our guests today are talking about fungi in the physical sense, in the living environment. This is really what we're talking about today. Our guest is also a lecturer at the Sorbonne University in Abu Dhabi and consults in the public sector. So excited to have her. Dima Srouri. Dima, welcome to Horizons. Great to have you with us.
Hi everyone. It's great. I'm overwhelmed with how many countries the chat has. The people are from everywhere. I thought it would be like more Dubai based because it's sponsored by the Dubai Future Foundation. So it's really great to be in this community. I'm so happy to see so many diverse backgrounds interested in fungi.
And Dima, are you still growing mushrooms at home?
I grow mushrooms all the time.
Doesn't.
Everywhere.
Even in plants, you have a little plant. I'm sure you're growing some kind of mushroom there,
Good point. Good point.
It's addictive. It's addictive. It's a one-way road.
Well, Dima, thank you for acknowledging the community here. I would actually like to crash Zoom right now together and invite the whole community on stage with us. So very easy to do this for all there out there in the world, all of you. You just switch your camera on and your microphone off. It's comfortable, and we switch the spotlights off. And then when you switch your Zoom to gallery view on the top right side, you'll see the whole world of Horizons show up for you. And I would just invite all of you to switch your microphone on. You heard that right. Go off mute and say hi in your favorite language to our guests and to each other. Be loud. Don't be shy. Hi out there, Horizons. Would love to hear from you.
Hello.
Hola.
Hi. Marhaba.
Our topic today, nature's architects. How will fungi shape our future? I have the honor to speak with Claudia Colmo and Dima Srouri, and we kick off the conversation by asking both of them, how in the world do I actually pronounce these 5 letters, F-U-N-G-I? I have heard many ways now. Fungi, fungi, fungi. What is it, Claudia? How do you say it?
I say fungi, but I guess you can say fungi too. Depends, I guess, if from, I don't know, maybe from the UK or from the US pronunciation. So, but I say fungi, which I think is from the US. I'm not sure actually. Dima, how do you pronounce it?
Yeah, I did. That was part of the first research I did because I was also confused, something that I love and I don't know how to pronounce. So I did some research and it turns out that fungi is British
Fungi.
and fungi and fungi are both American.
Can you
But
say that again?
fungi is British,
British?
yes, and fungi and fungi is American.
So how do you say it?
I oscillate between fungi and fungi, but to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of fungi for some reason.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit too much, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The phonetics of fungi or fungi is something that's closer to me.
Okay. Okay. The European American that I am, I'll go for fungi. And
I too.
to sort of hit in the middle. And Claudia, you are still processing.
Yeah, I think I'm fungi.
Okay.
100%
I mean,
fungi.
you speak Italian too, right?
Yeah, we say fungi.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this always reminds me of pasta, but I also love how you pronounce it in Italian. Anyway, what is the difference between mushrooms, mycelia, and fungi? Claudia, you even brought a visual to explain to us because many people, and I mean, you see this in the video that I shared that Iman was making fun of. Many people, when they hear fungi for the first time, they think it's the fruit, right? They think about the mushroom first, but there's a difference.
Yeah. So fungi, whatever you want to call it, how you pronounce it is fine. We don't judge. So it's basically the kingdom, as you have a kingdom of plante, animalia, bacteria, and so on. So that's the kingdom. And in this kingdom, you can find molds, yeasts, unicellars, multicellars, and basically yeast, for example, is the organism that we use for brewing or for making bread, all these things that we like. So we actually use fungi to make food, right? As I mentioned before, fungi are heterotrophs. So basically, they cannot produce their own food. And that's why they're closer to us, because the digestion system. However, as I said, they absorb nutrients. We actually digest them. So yeah, so there is the big kingdom of fungi or fungi. Then there is the mycelium and the mushroom. Well, mycelium is the vegetative part of the fungi, and it consists in a network-like hyphae. There are tubular structures that basically all together make this kind of very nice mat, white mat. So, and then the mushroom itself is the fruiting body. So basically, the mushroom is the reproductive system, in the sense, the reproductive organ of the mycelium. If you think about, so maybe we can bring up that picture with.
Yes. Yeah. Liz is looking for it right now. Liz, if you just want to, Liz, our fierce producer, if you just want to put on Claudia's images, we'll just flip through to the right image that has the mycelium and the fruit on it. So if you think about a tree, Claudia,
Exactly.
you could think about the roots as being the fungi, and then the maybe the branches being the mycelium and the apples that are on the apple tree?
Opposite. So the roots are the mycelium. So
Okay.
mycelium lives underground. So the roots are is the mycelium, and then the tree, that it's the mushroom. And let's just think that the apple is the spore. So the spore
okay.
is how it's how it reproduces, you know. So one spore is basically all the genetic data that you need for the mycelium to reproduce when it's spread in the environment.
Okay.
So yeah.
Whew.
So what you
Okay.
see here, well, it's not this one actually, but yeah, that's one of my projects. It's totally fine. So if you zoom in, you see in the underground network, the black one, it's the mycelium. And then these mushrooms here are, it's the reproductive system. And
Fantastic. And this shows your actual work. So you're
Yeah.
pursuing a PhD. You have not shown these pictures to anyone, may I just say. So don't screenshot these and post them.
Sam, this
Claudia's
is
work.
published. This is published in there are there's are not, but yeah.
Okay. So why, so you're an architect and you're doing a PhD on fungi to begin with. That sounds crazy. Why do you not do a PhD on concrete and you know, look for sustainable solutions there? What caught you and what made you do this project that we're looking at here, which is an actual living structure?
Yeah. Well, nothing against concrete at all. We love concrete. I mean, it's a fantastic material. However, you know, how we're exploiting it is just very not sustainable. So I think fungi, in my opinion, are just some mysterious organism. Like it operates underground, under our feet. It's fantastic, you know. So and they're all about the concept of renewal, making new connection, and I think because of this kind of interconnectivity, I started to kind of have this passion about this living organism. And its overall life aligns with concept of, oh no, now my French, but Antoine Lavoisier. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's about, you know, mass conservation. So he says, you know, nothing can be destroyed and nothing can be created. Everything gets transformed, basically, you know. And this is actually, it is the mushrooms are at the bottom of this, right? It's they do that, and it's all about this conservation of energy, mass, materiality too, and everything gets transformed. So if I think about from an architectural view, right, and I think about this, I'm like, well, why we're not be able to apply this in an architectural context, you know? Because when we see buildings, they're static. They just live there, right? There is not connection to the environment, or it's limited in the sense. So the concept of building envelope, is it actually permeable? Can it be permeable through living organisms? So those are the questions that I'm asking. And this transformation of mass, I think it's very interesting. And so how can we actually, as architects, have an architecture that has a metabolism, and it's not static, but it's dynamic?
And before we look at Dima's way of thinking and building with fungi, Claudia, you brought a really interesting question to the room that you would like to know from everyone about. What is it?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was yeah. So what was it? Okay. How would you feel to live in a structure that lives with you, that actually is living, breathing, emitting CO2 and so on with you, how would you feel? What would you be, I don't know, intimidated, or how would you approach?
I love this question. We abbreviated a little bit and we put it into how would it make you feel to live in a structure that lives with you? And we just put up the Menti. We'll give you some music to think about this. And of course, you can click the link in the Zoom chat, or you can pull out your phone like I'm doing now and scan the Menti QR code. And then let us know in the chat, how would it make you feel to live in a structure like the one that Claudia is building, that actually lives with you, that's an organism, that is breathing, that is processing the environment. And the answers are already rolling in, Claudia. Yes, please was the first one. Like a real nomad. I feel like I have that already with all the creatures that permeate my living space. I would feel alive. I would feel energized, curious, connected. All things are actually living. Even our houses creak and crack with changes in temperature. What's the difference actually if it's a tree or a mycelia that I'm living in? I would feel about as comfortable as having all these fungi communities inside us in our guts. So still thoroughly freaked out. I feel this is already
people
the
are
nature of the
freaking out.
universe.
Amazing.
Yes.
That's how you make an impact.
And it's funny because it's the same feeling that I had when I looked at this lion's mane time lapse. There's some of us who are a little creeped out, and some of us who is just utterly fascinated and feel sort of like warm and fuzzy when you think about fungi. So when you look at the chat, just scrolling, skimming through here, Claudia, is there anything that stands out to you?
I'm trying. 1 second.
I can read some more here. United and whole, holistic, scary, interesting, but hard to imagine. A greater sense of belonging. I would feel a greater sense of belonging. I love the idea that I can feel the house grow with me. A great sensory experience.
I mean, I guess almost everyone, but the one that is freaking out is quite positive. I
Weird
mean,
at first. If I knew it was safe or beneficial, it would be interesting.
Yeah.
We have to ask the fungi if they want to live with us.
But that's so true. I mean,
Yeah.
I was
The assumption is that, you know, we would be the ones to benefit, but maybe we need to ask them, do they want to live with us?
Yeah,
It's like that image of the deer crossing the road, right? Did the deer cross, or was the road built where the deer was in the first place?
Yeah, very interesting perspective.
That was the ghost voice of philosopher Iman Al-Qadi here in the background. Iman, please come back anytime to this conversation. And I want to thank everybody who shared here. This is fascinating. We have 30 responses from all around the world. And I want to bring Dima in and ask you, Dima, you just heard all of this, you read all of this. Do you want to reflect on it first before we go into your own project?
Yeah, so you asked the question like, why are you fascinated with fungi, and why are you doing this as an architect? And I also have a similar story because I'm an urban planner, and urban planner has nothing to do with mushrooms or fungi or fungi. But I tend to be a generalist as an urban planner. So when you look at a city as a whole, you have to understand a little bit about everything, how everything works together rather than how everything functions separately on its own. So we have to understand the synergies, how the people use them, the interaction between them, the multiple modes of transport, the infrastructure. And you know, we tend to be reductionist, like everybody focuses on one discipline and nobody kind of likes to look at the holistic view. So I was actually starting to look at multiple sectors. I was taking a multi-sectoral approach and thinking, why is agriculture always like neglected and ignored in our cities? Why is it always outside, and farms are outside and we don't have food, and we find it easier to import food? So I was starting to have those questions about urban agriculture and how we can bring food to the cities. At the same time, I was like, conscious about health and nutrition and how we can boost it. And I came across mushrooms. And that was years ago in the UAE, where we couldn't find any mushrooms, particularly the exotic edible mushrooms that have like the health benefits, the mental health. And I had this crazy idea, what if I learn how to grow them? So I took a few courses, and one course led to the other, and then I found myself growing mushrooms. And that was way before I even thought of the idea of starting a business with mushrooms. So when I started growing them, I was fascinated. It's so refreshing when you see something grow for the first time. And they're a bit different from plants because they look so beautiful. They look so pretty. And when you look at the gills, it's like a whole world inside, you know, the back of a mushroom. And this is actually the side that holds the spores for reproduction that Claudia talked about. It's the under the cap, whether it's a cap. This is an oyster mushroom, so it doesn't have a cap, but you see those gills like a fish gill. These are the ones that actually hold the spore for reproduction. And I was fascinated by the beauty, and I started reading more and more and more about them. And the more I read, the more I think they play such an amazing role in our ecosystems. So mycelium, which is the root of this mushroom, is underground, transferring nutrients, information between trees, digesting materials so that other organisms and microorganisms can actually have food available for them. So I thought this like amazing web is a whole world that we don't know much about. And I was getting into biomimicry and how we can learn from nature, from the processes, from the products that we have. And I saw that one of the applications of mycelium is building material, leather for the fashion industry, a lot of other applications which started to actually resonate with me as someone who has an urban planning degree with a background in architecture. And I thought this is coming back to me, even though it's from the agricultural sector, but it's at the intersect of agriculture and the built environment. And I thought, you know, maybe I could start building, you know, some material from mycelium. And because of my knowledge in architecture, this just came so easy to me, even easier than growing mushrooms, as much as I like it, but it came so easy to me. So I started experimenting with it, and then I slowly started to understand that mycelium creates the bond that we're actually using in other material as chemical and synthetic binders, which are causing like huge amounts of pollution. They emit VOCs in the built environment, which are unhealthy for us. They're causing allergies, respiratory diseases. So I was thinking, like, what is this amazing material that is completely natural and built by nature, and hence the name of this session. So the architect here is really the fungi. It's not us. We're just allowing it to express itself. And if you do that every time, you actually come up with a different product. And this is what I love about working with mycelium material, is that as architects, we tend to be extremely perfectionists about what the material is going to look like, and we want every single piece to look exactly the same. And fungi tells us that no leaf in nature is the same, no flower is the same, nothing is the same. It's the variety and the beauty of imperfection that we need to embrace in fungi.
And we're looking at what you did, and we're a part of just this last year. You put the structure in the middle of Dubai for COP28, and there are fungi living within the structure now, correct?
Yes, well, they were living to a certain extent, and then they became food for other organisms. So the idea behind this pavilion is that it becomes a habitat for multiple species where different organisms can thrive. So our material was the mycelium material. We worked with other material like desert board, which is made from palm waste, and date date form, which is built also from the date seed. So it's all local material from the UAE, built and shaped in different ways. to create a habitat. So the cones were attracting pigeons so that they could nest inside. The mycelium material was actually attracting both birds and insects, so they were picking on it. And we particularly did not coat it with anything so that it looks attractive to the insects and the birds, and it was accessible for them to pick on. So when we first installed it, the mycelium looked white, and now it's slowly degrading in a beautiful way to go back to where it used to be, which is back into the soil. So at the end of its life cycle, every element will be taken back to the soil from this installation, and our mycelium material is going back to nourish the soil as well.
Wow. And Dima, thank you for sharing all this. It's fascinating to see how you went from growing mushrooms in your home to turning this into your work and into your life's mission. I see in the chat a parallel conversation about fears and people watching Last of Us, which is, of course, a TV series that's fictional about a mass fungal infection that's taking over post-apocalyptic stuff. But I think it fits pretty well to the question that you brought for everyone today. What is it that you want to know from the community, Dima?
Yeah, I would like to know, what kind of fears do you have of fungi? And do you actually think of it as fungus, like the black mold that we look at and we're scared of and we want to get rid of, and we use, chemicals to get rid of? Or do you think of it as this kingdom, like Claudia said, that is undiscovered and something fascinating that we need to learn more and more about?
What are your greatest fears of fungi is what Dima would like to know, and we'll give you a few seconds to respond here. While some of you have actually already kicked us off, we would love to know, maybe we can give you some fitting music to think, to type. What is it that you are afraid of, as Dima just said? And maybe you have watched too much sci-fi movies about it. Maybe you have had an experience yourself. Let us know what you find a little bit scary, and we'll talk about it here on Horizons. And actually, they infect my blood. There shouldn't be any fear because it's part of nature. They're very resilient. What do you want from us and from the future fungi kingdom is were the first contributions. And I'm wondering what the blooms are. The blooms are scary to me. Somebody from the community writes, growing exponentially and everywhere. Hard to control. Yes, this is what I loved about the video from the lion's mane. It looks just like it's taking over. We haven't studied fungi all that much, is what scares me, right? Someone much more complex than some networks. Are they more intelligent than us even? And this is a question, Dima, that also came up in the chat. Do they have memory? Are they smarter than us? Could be scary, right? I mean, in times where we always talk about AI becoming more intelligent than humans, are the fungi maybe already smarter than us, Dima?
They could be. I mean, I like the first one, which says it's part of nature and nothing in nature should be scary. So that would be my answer. They growing exponentially and everywhere and hard to control. I don't think that's a true statement, because as Claudia said, they need food. So if you give them food, they'll grow. If you don't give them food, they'll die. So it depends on the environment. They tend to adapt to the environment, and if they find food, they'll grow. So it's not that they go out of control.
Okay, I see. So that's very good to know. And do you ever watch any of the Last of Us or similar TV series or movies?
I could not, because I love fungi too much. So when people told me what it's about, I was like, no, I can't watch it. It's gonna destroy so many things for me, so many beautiful things for me. But it's a sci-fi. I don't think that's going to happen in the future.
Claudia, anything that scares you particularly?
I mean, yeah, I agree with Dima. Nature is beautiful. But sometimes maybe we have to be a bit careful. There are some pathogenic species, but if you know how to work with the with them. I mean, not with the pathogenic, you shouldn't work. And it's, you know, it's all about a relationship, I think, and connection towards the mushroom and knowledge, because you have to know which species, which not. Of course, you cannot bring a pathogenic species around, because that's very dangerous. But even the pathogenic species has a role in nature. So yeah, I totally agree with Dima, you know, it's for example, this aspergillus, you know, yeah, they're super bad, but they're there for a reason. They decompose, you know. So yeah, let's be kind towards them.
Yes,
And
and of
I
course
didn't, oh, sorry.
in the chat and also on Menti, there's this kind of connotation that, you know, the humans using these, that's maybe the most scary part. The humans using fungi in a way that can harm others is much scarier than the fungi itself. And this brings me to something that sort of brings the community and you two together today. Many of the people who have taken the time to be here with us are people that build scenarios that future as a verb in their daily life, that try to help others to look at what's next in a different way. Why should all these people that are in the room with us right now care about fungi? Why should everybody who is a foresight practitioner or a futurist actually know about this topic and get into this topic? Dima, what would you say?
I would say that there are some really interesting phenomena related to fungi, which we are still scratching the surface, and it's been fascinating scientists and urban planners alike. We know that fungi are one of the first organisms that existed, so existed way before humans. And you asked about memory and intelligence. Memory, I'm not so sure about, but I think it's the intelligence and the adaptation to the environment is probably much stronger with fungi than with human beings, considering the fact that they have existed way before us. They have noticed that in sites like Chernobyl, Nagasaki, after the phenomena happened, the first thing that actually grows back way before trees and plants is fungi, types of fungi that are native to the environment. And some of them even were growing towards the radiation, which means that they can actually start detoxifying the environment from radiation, from toxic waste. And just knowing this, we know that their resilience and their adaptability is extremely important for us, but we need to learn and understand how that happens and how we can actually restore some of the degraded lands that we have, whether it's due to development activities, built environment activities, war, radiation. We need to learn how we use nature to actually regenerate our land. And fungi has a lot of promises in that regard that is still being studied right now, in terms of myco-remediation, which is soil remediation using fungi, or even removing toxins and heavy metals from the soil. So it is really something that I find fascinating, and I find that the future is heading towards that, because it's much more cost effective, and you actually solve multiple problems at the same time. You don't only solve the problem of, toxicity or land contamination, but you also regenerate the land for other species and plants to thrive as well. So I find this a very interesting way to look at the future. As an urban planner, one of the fascinating things I learned about fungi when I first started researching about it, which is something that Iman mentioned briefly, is that fungi builds a network, and that network seems not only just beautiful from the outside to look at the hyphae and the mycelium network. It looks like really like sacred geometry when you look at it. But researchers have been fascinated by the fact, like, how do they pick the route? Like, how do they actually choose the route to go to? And it turns out that they actually pick the shortest and the most efficient route to reach food and nutrition for them so that they can grow and create that network that connects all the high felines together. So they looked up one of the most efficient railway networks in the world, and they took the Tokyo railway network, and they actually mapped the station locations on a piece of cardboard. And on every station location, they put food that is good for fungi, which is fibrous material, and they inoculated the board with fungi, with the fungi, and they started looking at the route that it will take to connect with the mycelium network. And it actually was very, very close to how the Tokyo subway network was actually designed and built, which shows you that, you know, we're trying to create something with geometry and measuring the distances and the routes, but nature has this as something that's by default that happens in nature, because they don't want to waste time or energy. Nature is very, very efficient. So they go to the shortest route and they find their way to the food, and they create such a solid network. And I'm wondering whether this is something that we could, you know, get inspiration from this wisdom of nature for us as urban planners when we want to actually plan the shortest and the most efficient routes to connect our cities, whether it's pedestrians or cyclists or public transport. If we could use this intelligence to tell us how we can build cities, that is something that we could learn for the future as well.
Wow. And the links to the story that you just mentioned were just shared in the chat. There are headlines like brainless slime mold grows in pattern like Tokyo's subway system. Isn't that a good story? And I would like to put it to you, Claudia, while we head into the last 5 minutes here on the conversation, because the question that was most upvoted in our WhatsApp vote was actually, what are key lessons or behaviors of fungi that serve as guidance for how to approach the future? I think Dima already showed us a few that we can look at. And there was also talk in the chat about, you know, steering away from hierarchy and looking into complex systems. You will find the resemblance of fungi that have been there long before us and will probably be here long after us. Do you have any other examples, Claudia, where you say, yes, if I am somebody who thinks about the future professionally, these are lessons or behaviors of fungi that could help me as guidance?
Well, it's very aligned to my own research, of course, and actually very aligned to what Dima just said. But I believe that, you know, we can co-design our future with the fungi, and definitely since we are in an environmental crisis, I think it's paramount for us to look that as a priority. So because if we're not going to fix that, there is not going to be future. And I don't want to be pessimistic, but it is like this. So I really believe that fungi in general, they are one of the solutions that can be used towards to have different approaches to construction. And you know, in my case, I'm very interested in living mycelium materials. So that means a material that is living, and that means that you maintain the metabolism. And maintaining the metabolism leads to different application. And in the case, and Dima already explained the concept of micro-remediation. So what I'm proposing is to have a living material that remediates at the same time, and it's part of the building envelope. So I think, you know, that is a strategy, and it's not the only one, of course. But, you know, if we can start thinking about different approaches towards the problem that we're facing, which is the environmental crisis, and we actually use nature, and it doesn't have to be necessarily mycelium, you know, there are great research that talk about bacteria, algae, and so on. So if we can actually collectively use nature in a way that helps us and without, you know, disrupting nature at the same time, I think that is great. So yeah, this is what I believe. I think we should really put the environmental crisis as the first priority, and collectivity. I think in architecture, you know, I believe in decentralization of architect. I believe that communities already have their own knowledge in the sense, and by combining architects and you know, local communities, we can find great solutions that are that have minimal environmental impact, and that you know, they can serve for a purpose, and they're functional. So you know, using local materials, using local knowledge, and using nature, I think that, and communities, and building communities, I think this is the future. And maybe it's the past, because I'm actually mentioning things that are already been used or already been, you know, employed a long time ago, you know, in indigenous communities and so on. So I think we really have to go back to that way of living, you know, or just, you know, mindset.
We share signals in this last part of the hour. We share the things that inspired us about fungi, about our big topic of today. Could be a podcast, an article, a study. Many of you already shared signals in the chat. Thank you for those. We will continue sharing them in our WhatsApp community. But for now, I'm going to ask Dima first. Dima, any signals you took from the breakouts? Anything you would like to share? Anything that inspired you lately about fungi?
Yeah, there was a question like, why are we not investing enough in showcasing the beauty of fungi?
Elisa,
And
please turn the music down a tiny notch. Thank you.
And I was thinking maybe because we're not showcasing like the applications enough, maybe because people don't think it's sexy enough for researchers or for investors. So the more we work with it, the more we showcase its potential, the more we start to show that it's a strong and resilient material. It has applications exactly like other material, like cladding applications, insulation applications. So we're showing that it can be used for the traditional and the conventional construction material that we know of. Maybe it will not replace concrete in terms of strength or steel, but it's still good enough as insulation, as acoustic, as a cladding material. It's something that we could use for temporary installations while minimizing our own waste. So there are lots of ways to think about it. We just have to think about our construction applications in a different way. Like Claudia said, we have an environmental crisis, and we need to think of different ways and different materials that are more based on nature.
So you're not sharing a signal here. It's more a call to action. You're saying whatever you're tackling, whatever problem or issue you're working on, think about how fungi could help you, and go and take your time to do research on it, because probably there's something that's going to help you in this massive world. And Claudia, is there anything from your end, anything that you recently learned about fungi that you would like to share with us? We just put in the chat, maybe a book, a movie, a podcast.
Yes, I actually today I was just scrolling, and I just found this new this research that says that white noise increases production of spores and growth of mycelium. So who knows?
Wow.
Maybe we can put if we were gonna have a living material, put some white noise, it starts growing around faster.
That's crazy. You
No,
also
very
shared with me before that, and I think this is somebody that many people here have heard of, Melvin Sheldrake, who wrote this book, Entangled Life, that became a bestseller. You just heard Melvin on a podcast the other day, and we just put that in the chat as a further recommendation from you on our Entangled Life. Merlin Sheldrake, something to listen to, a philosopher on fungi, I would say. And Iman, before we close the session together, you're busy responding to applications, I'm sure. I saw many people in the chat who want to reach out to you. Anything you would like to leave us with today? Any fungi-related last words?
I don't know. I'm very inspired by this session. I think we've only just touched the surface of the mushroom. So I'm very excited to see how much more we can learn. So please, all of you, come and join us at the Dubai Future Forum, where we will do take 2 of this session with Dima and Claudia, and we'll have one more speaker that will join us with fungi-based yogurts. So we haven't even talked about eating all of these interesting things that we can make with fungi. So let's see who dares to try the yogurt.
Only in Dubai you get fungi-based yogurt. Fascinating. Thank you, Iman. And thank you everybody who shared here. By the way, we have received some questions through Menti. We will put them forward to Dima and to Claudia. Yes, Dima and Claudia, you heard that right. There's some homework waiting. Because we want to make sure that these questions get answered. Where can you find the answers? We will put all the signals and all that has been shared here into our WhatsApp community. You can find our WhatsApp community channel link in the chat. And I also hope for you to join us again on November 7th for our next Dubai Future Horizons session. In the meantime, our video podcast from all our sessions can be found on the Dubai Future Foundation YouTube page. And lastly, I just want to say, as a team on Remote Daily, as a partner of the Biofuture Foundation, we're super proud to produce this series. It's so fascinating, so diverse, and so challenging every time to tackle these huge questions together. And I can't wait to do the same in Dubai at the Dubai Future Forum together with you. So see you on November 7th virtually, and then on November 19th in person. And I want to thank Iman and Inas and Yumna and the entire team at Dubai Future Foundation for pulling this off. I want to thank Liz and Tim and Jaleesa and the entire team here for pulling off this session. And of course, our amazing guests, Dima, Srouri, and Claudia Colmo. Make sure to connect with them. Goodbye. Auf Wiedersehen. Fungi.
Bye.
Fungi.
Bye.
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 Ciao.